11.4 graphing cube root functions. We're going to start on page 624. And we're going to go through the transformations on the cube roots, which are the same transformations we have been doing all year long. These are cube roots. So it is the cube root under the radical that all goes with the x. So minus 3 will be a translation. And remember, everything that's with the x under the radical is opposite of what you think. So it says minus 3, so it's actually going to go where? To the right. B, cube root of x plus 3 is a translation. It is opposite. It says plus 3, and it's going which way?
Left.
Left. Part B, predict the effect of K. This is not with the X. It is at the end, and at the end means it moves just like it says. If it says plus 3, it is going to be a translation. And it is going to move 3 units up. Minus 3 is a translation.
Down.
It's going down.
And it moves 3 units down.
Down.
Any questions on that? Alright, now let's look at the numbers out in front of the radical, which will be your verticals, vertical stretch or compression. 3 times the cube root of x is a vertical stretch. And it is a stretch by a factor of 3. 1/3 cube root of x, the graph is a vertical compression by a factor of 1/3. C, negative 1/3 x is a vertical compression of the graph of f of x by a factor of 1/3, as well as a reflection across the x-axis. G of x equals negative 3 times the cube root of x is a vertical stretch by a factor of 3, as well as a reflection across the x-axis. Next part. Now this part is, we're talking about the B, which is under the radical, and it always moves opposite of what it looks like. The graph is a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3. Part B is a horizontal compression by a factor of 1/3. On C, the graph is a horizontal stretch by a factor of 3, as well as a reflection across the y-axis. Letter D, the cube root of negative 3x. The graph is a horizontal compression of the graph of f of x by a factor of 1/3, as well as a reflection across the
Y-axis.
y-axis. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, now turn to page 627. Your turn number 3. Now we are going to do, not this table, we are going to do the same T-chart we've been doing all year long. This time though, our reference points, we're going to have 5 reference points instead of the 2 we've been doing. And these are the 5 right here. The reason we have so many is your cubic graphs are going to be, remember the little curved graph? And so you have to have more points, or they may go this way. So you have to have more points. All right, let's look at what happens to the x. Now remember, it's everything under the radical happens to the x, and it's opposite of what you would think. So this would be x what? Plus 3. Then you just treat the radical, the whole radical as a y. So what would that give you over here for the y? Plus 6. Okay, so everything under here, you do opposite, so that would be x plus 3. And then treat all of this as a y plus 6. Now you're just going to substitute each of these values in for x and y. So I'm going to put a -8 in for x. So -8 plus 3 is -5. -2 plus 6, 4. Put in -1. -1 plus 3, 2. -1 plus 6, 5. 0 plus 3, 3. 0 plus 6, 6. 1 plus 3, 4. 1 plus 6, 7. 8 plus 3, 11. And 2 plus 6, 8. Those are my 5 new points. So then I'm going to plot those points. -5, 4. Now notice that my graph is in 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8. So be careful when you're plotting these. -5, 4 would be right there. +2, 5. +3, 6. 4, 7. And 11, 8. You can see the curve right there in the middle. It will look like that. Questions? What would be my domain and what would be my range? How far left and how far right does this graph go? Infinity. So we can just put all real numbers. Remember real numbers as a double line on the left? All reals. What about range? How far down and how far up does it go? Well, even though this looks like it kind of levels off here, it is actually going down, and it's going to keep going down for a long time, gradually. And this is going to keep going up gradually, so it will be all reals also. So the question is, cubic functions, domain and range is always going to be what? All reals. Always. All right, number 4. We're going to make another T-chart. I didn't draw that very straight, did I? What about the x? What would the x be? X minus 3. And what about y?
Y minus 7.
Y minus 7. So if I put negative 8 in for x, I get negative 11. And negative 2 in for y, I get negative 9. Negative 1 in for x, I get negative 4. Negative 1 in for y, I get negative 8. 0 in for x, negative 3. 0 in for y, negative 7. 1 in for x, negative 2, and 1 in for y, negative 6. 8 in for x, 5, and 2 in for y, negative 5. Plot those points. Negative 11, negative 9. Negative 11, negative 9. Negative 4, negative 8. Negative 3, negative 7. Negative 2, negative 6. And 5, negative 5. I didn't hit these points very good, but it should have gone this way and up through there. Made a little curve. Domain? All real numbers. Range? All real numbers. Questions? Anybody? All right. Now we're going to, just like we did on 11.2, we're going to write the equation from the graph. Okay? So we need to pick out the point that is the HK. The point that is where the graph curves is my HK. So let's look at the drawing and pick out the point where the graph curves. So if you'll notice this point right here, notice it curves in this way and then it curves out like that. That right there is going to be your HK. That point right there. So my HK will be, HK is going to be, what is that point right there?
Negative 2,
Negative 2, negative 5. Negative 2, negative 5 is the HK. So since we're looking for A, we're using the same formulas that we did the other day. We have H plus 1, K plus A. Those are our two formulas that we're using. Now, we're going to take the point to the right of our HK. So here's our HK. Notice I have a point here, and a point right there, and a point way out here. I'm taking the point to the right of the HK, directly to the right of it. So I'm going to use that point right there. So what are my coordinates of that point right there? Negative 1, negative 3. Negative 1, negative 3. Now, I know my H, so I don't need that part. I'm looking for the A. That's what's missing. So K plus A equals negative 3. What is K? Negative 5 plus A equals negative 3. Add 5 to both sides. What does A equal? 2. Now that I know A, I'm ready to write the equation. G of x equals A cube root. Make sure you put that 3 up there in the corner, because if you don't, it looks like square root and it's wrong. Cube root of x minus, what is H? Negative 2, which will make that what? Positive. And then plus K, which is negative 5. That right there is my equation If I put that equation into my y equals